Good evening. Welcome to the Village of Pleasantville Board meeting for Monday, May 11, 2009. We are happy to receive call-ins. If anyone has any comment on any subject we talk about tonight, the number is 769-1677. So if you are watching live on Monday, May 11, the number is 769-1677. If you're watching on a replay, don't bother to call. We won't be here. A couple of announcements to remind people of. There are a couple of big events coming up. The first is this weekend. Saturday the 16th is Pleasantville Day. A whole series of events planned as usual. The fair down on Memorial Plaza. But at 10 o'clock we will have a ceremony taking place in the garden on Wheeler Avenue behind Ashburn Hall, the Senior Center. And that will be a celebration of a whole bunch of community volunteers who have contributed to various programs. And we are expecting to have an attendance at that event. Our County Legislator John Nona, our State Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and our Congresswoman Nita Lowy. So anyone who's interested in attending that, it will be at the Garden on Wheeler Avenue behind the Senior Center at 10 a.m. on Pleasantville Day, which is this Saturday. And stick around downtown for the festivities that follow. The Pleasantville High School Student Art Show will be taking place that day at the Burns Film Center, second floor. I think that's open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., so that's yet another of the things you can do on Pleasantville Day, which is this Saturday. I hasten to point out that Pleasantville Day happens rain or shine, so we've had a pockmarked history on that. Here's hoping we get the sunny day we're due. Also mark your calendars for the annual Pleasantville Firemen's Parade, which is going to be on Friday, May 29th, starting at 7 p.m. And earlier that week on Memorial Day, we will have our traditional Memorial Day Parade, which starts at BRS at 10 a.m. and comes down to Memorial Plaza, where we will have services for Memorial Day thereafter. So three big events coming in rapid fire succession: Pleasantville Day this weekend, Memorial Day, and then the Fire Department Parade on May 29th. Anybody else have any schedule things? The farm market starts on Memorial Day weekend too, am I right?
No.
The weekend
after. The weekend after.
The weekend after.
Yeah. The
Okay.
30th.
So the farm market starts on Saturday, the 30th. Anybody else have other announcements they wanted to make?
Just about the pool. If I know I got a few phone calls about why it was filled up and then not filled up and then filled up again. But there's the Virginia Grant Baker Act that requires us to put these guards on our drains in the pool, and we did that, and the inspector didn't come, and the lining got dirty, and they had to drain it to rewash it, and it's going to be filled up again. They're doing it right now. So if anybody has any questions, they can certainly call Linda at Village Hall, and she could explain it further. But all is okay. There's no hole in the lining. I think a lot of people were concerned that we had a leak, but it's not. It was done purposely. So.
And then the pool opens Saturday, May 23rd. Am I right about that?
Right. I think so. Memorial Day weekend.
Great. All kinds of stuff happening. We met, as we always do, before the regular meeting in work session and have a list of things to talk about, 3 of which we got to and 2 of which we have yet to get to. But we met with a bunch of neighbors in the area of Green Meadow Road and Hayes Hill about a project that's been discussed that would join together a new water main that has to be put in to replace an existing very old and tired water main, and the possibility of combining that with a project to address some of the drainage problems that exist in the area of Summit, Green Meadow, and Hayes Hill. So the project that has been scoped out so far, all in, including the water main project and the drainage project, is a roughly $2 million project, and that $2 million does not include addressing the source of the water, which is up on Summit coming down to Green Meadow. So a number of us are meeting with some neighbors on Wednesday morning at 8:30 to actually walk up and down the road and look at the conditions, and we'll be exploring that further. So that's one of the things on the radar screen. We've been chatting among ourselves about improving our emergency preparedness. The village has done quite a number of things over recent years, including a year or so ago completing the installation of a emergency generator at the Public Works Department that would allow our village garage and gas pumps to operate off a generator in the event that we had an extended blackout. So that was a significant step forward. The police chief annually puts together an emergency preparedness plan that describes a number of what-ifs and where people would go and how the village would operate if certain of its facilities were affected by any kind of a natural disaster, a hurricane, a fire, or whatever. And we are looking to improve the specificity of some of those plans and also make sure that all the people who are named as participants in that in the event of emergency are clear on an annual basis about what they might need to do. So that's something we'll be hearing a little bit more about over the next couple of months as we try to improve that. Two other items on the agenda that we didn't get to yet and we'll get to after our regular meeting is a discussion regarding funding the Capital Reserve Fund for Economic Development, which is a fund that we created at a meeting, our last regular meeting, which is basically a capital account that would allow us to sweep some of the revenues from some source. One possible source is parking violations and parking fees into a fund that could be used to fund downtown improvements over a long period of time. As of the moment, that the idea of that fund has been approved, but it's an empty account with no money in it, and the next discussion is how and when to fund that. And then also on our radar screen for discussion is the old recreation center that's at the corner of Bedford Road and Great Oak Lane. That is a building that we vacated about, must be a year and a half ago, because of various infrastructure problems. And as many of you know, the rec department is currently camped out on the third floor here in Village Hall and has been using various other facilities around town for its recreation programs. The existing rec center, which is the old library from way back when, is a historic building that I think we're all committed to protecting for the future. We had a buyer about a year or so ago who intended to purchase it from us and convert it to a single-family house. In the end, that project did not materialize, and so we're at the moment in the circumstance of owning that historic building. It's suffering a number of maintenance and infrastructure problems, and the question we confront now is whether and how to sell it, and if so, under what terms. So that's a discussion to be had further. About a year ago, at the time that we last talked about selling it, we issued a request for proposals that outlined the requirement that any buyer come forward and describe to us what they intended to use it for, how they would renovate it, and also to commit to restoring the building consistent with a set of guidelines that were included in the RFP that are put out by the Secretary of the Interior about historic preservation. So that's an issue still on the radar screen, how to proceed on that front. Any comments are welcome as we proceed with that discussion. We've had some written communication, both in the form of letters and emails in the last couple of weeks. I've received a number of emails from residents on two different subjects. One is the subject of sidewalks on Church Street. A number of people have written to me and expressed support for the idea of sidewalks on Church Street, and I have also received a number of emails regarding the question of a Verizon cable TV franchise in the village of Pleasantville, as well as some frustrated comments from people who are current Cablevision customers. So the report on that goes like this. Jonathan Cunningham and I and Patty have a meeting on Wednesday with a Verizon negotiator who we've seen before, but also a senior vice president from Verizon in the city, and I am at least cautiously hopeful that that may bring us closer to a resolution of this. It's hard to get in the same room with somebody from Verizon who's actually got the power to make a decision. I'm hopeful that at least we're closer to that, and we will certainly report to you after that meeting, which is going to happen day after tomorrow. So we're pushing that as aggressively as we can to get Verizon in the same room, and I've said to them, look, let's get a decision maker in the room and let's not leave till we have a deal. So can't at the moment promise what the results of that would be, and I'm frustrated to report that the discussion I had today with the VP from Verizon she indicated to me that the Verizon approval process, once a deal has been approved in concept at the local level, involves no fewer than 10 levels of review at Verizon, taking perhaps 2 or 3 months. So it's hard to imagine how corporations get as big as they get if they are unable to be a little more nimble than that. But stay tuned. We're working on it, and we're working on it hard. So those who have written to me about Cablevision have experienced what many of us have. I happen to fall in the same category. A family basic cable subscriber without a digital box has suffered a continual loss of channels, And the solution to that is to get a digital cable box. The latest offer from Cablevision is that they will give you that for free for a year, after which they start charging you, and it's roughly
Unless you have another
right.
box in your house, and then you don't get it for free.
It's roughly $9 or $10 a month for the box and the remote. So the day that happened, I had a conversation with Robert Hawk, who's the government liaison for Cablevision, and he said what one would expect him to say, obviously representing his company, but the short version of a longer story is that Cablevision, and I think it's probably true of Verizon as well, are pushing more and more towards digital and higher value services. Cablevision does not expect even to offer the Family Basic package after December 31 of this year, and at that point the IO Digital package will be the lowest priced package they offer, and I believe that's somewhere in the vicinity of $70, $75 a month as the entry-level package. So a frustrating business to have an existing service and find pieces of it have been progressively lopped off. Cablevision described that to me as basically the question of whether it happens incrementally or whether they pull the Band-Aid off all at once. That's obviously their business decision to make, but I certainly share everybody's frustration about it. And at least at the point at which we think we can get an agreement with Verizon, people will have their choice of companies to be frustrated with. So, I received a letter today from our former Mayor Bernie Gordon, and that relates to the subject I referred to a minute ago, which is the idea of a capital reserve fund for parking and economic development. That is, in essence, downtown improvements. It's a subject Bernie and I have disagreed with over a period of time, and he writes this letter, which I will read into the record for the benefit of everybody. Dated May 11, Dear Mayor Shearer and the Board, I read the article in this week's Examiner regarding the establishment of the parking fund. If this account is funded, as the article states, the money is to be used by future boards for future projects. I strongly urge you not to fund this account because in the final analysis it is a hidden tax increase and because it is unfair to current taxpayers. Segregating current funds into a restricted account to be used for unspecified and undesignated projects determined by future boards at unspecified periods of time is, as noted by Trustee Cunningham, a hidden tax increase. In funding such a restricted account, the board will be depleting the village's savings account, referred to as the fund balance, and the restricted funds will have to be replaced by a tax increase when money is needed to pay unexpected operating expenses. In my opinion, funding this account will set a bad precedent and is very unfair to current taxpayers. Events of the past week reinforce my position. As part of the MTA settlement, the legislature and governor have agreed to an additional payroll tax of 34 cents per $100 of payroll to help fund the MTA deficit. This additional payroll tax will have to be paid by municipalities but not by school districts, and I believe will be retroactive to March 2009. Consequently, the board in the current fiscal year and for the foreseeable future will be faced with an unexpected expenditure of perhaps $30,000 or more per year. This additional expenditure will be accompanied by an anticipated increased contribution in the pension system. Parking revenues belong to the people of Pleasantville and should be used for the benefit of current taxpayers, whether to pay for paving streets in the Central Business District, to pay bond indebtedness for approved capital projects, or placed in the village's fund balance to help pay unanticipated costs such as the MTA payroll tax. It is not fair that the taxpayer money be used to pay for a project that the current taxpayer will not use or receive a benefit. The Examiner's analogy that this fund is similar to a 401k savings plan is not a good one. The 401k is for the benefit of the person who earns the money. The proposed parking fund is more like a new kitchen savings account established by a homeowner to be used for the next homeowner to pay for the next homeowner's new kitchen. The current homeowner shouldn't have to pay for something he won't enjoy or have any benefit. The board has to be responsible and consider future impacts of its decisions. However, I urge the board not to penalize current taxpayers to satisfy unspecified or unsubstantiated needs of future residents. Please don't fund the parking fund. Very truly yours, Bernard S. Gordon. So I read that in its entirety both because I promised Bernie I would and because I think it's important for everybody to hear that line of thought. You've probably heard that line of thought if you have listened into the discussions we've had about this idea over the last 3 or 4 years, and I refer you back to the debate and discussion we had about it at the board meeting last time. My only comment, not to plow that ground again, is that I feel very strongly that this is a perfectly appropriate, indeed necessary thing to do, and that is to establish a disciplined savings plan towards a defined goal. The notion that we are benefiting future taxpayers at the expense of current ones suggests that we don't intend to take any action quickly. Indeed, the opposite is true. My goal here is that we can establish some of the money, and my perception of it is that we are sweeping some of the several $100,000s a year we're generating from parking tickets into a fund to fund improvements so that in the future we can wean ourselves from the addiction to parking tickets, which is both annoying to our residents, annoying to our visitors, and has at this point, I think, become a drag upon the downtown business district, so that in the end we can solve some of the problems that the parking tickets are a symptom of. So the number we've talked about in rough draft is something like $50,000 a year, which represents 5–6% of our total parking revenues, which I might hasten to add have more than doubled in the last several years, so that we can fund that, basically create a revenue stream. That revenue stream obviously won't in and of itself fund a big parking improvement, but once we've identified a revenue stream, we can use that to fund a bond that would allow us to take reasonably prompt action. So can't promise exactly when, but I do think it's an appropriate step, and a flag stuck in the ground that said we're not interested in talking about these problems for the next 10 years. We're interested in either solving them ourselves or bequeathing to a future board the tools with which they can promptly do so. So any comments from anybody else are welcome.
Is it more like 10% of the parking revenues, $50,000?
Well, at the moment, the total parking revenues are roughly $600,000, so it's what,
Not 10%.
well, 8%, whatever.
Well, that's, you're including all revenues, right? You're including fees.
The 600,000 in parking revenues is
everything, as
parking
opposed to
fees,
parking-
commuter fees, parking meters,
As opposed to
tickets.
parking meters.
Right. So, as I say, as of the
Parking
moment,
meters are what? 200 grand?
yeah, it's about
Top of my head, I think
Right.
you're right.
So,
288 or something.
recognize that in the end, and my conception of this is that we have, in essence, substantially increased user fees on people who use our parking by doubling parking meter rates and by substantially increasing the amount of parking enforcement we do, and therefore our parking ticket revenue. And all that is understandable in a whole series of ways, but my suggestion is that we take some small piece of that, less than a penny on it, less than a dime on a dollar, and put it into a fund that says, hey, we gave you a ticket, you violated the parking rules, but we know we have some parking issues in this town, and hopefully when you come back in 5 or 10 years, you'll find that the conditions have changed. So we have established a similar circumstance for our fields improvements, where families that register their kids in field sport through ACE or Dad's Club pay a fields fee, and that fields fee is in essence a user fee levied on the people who are using the fields, and we put that into a specific capital fund, the goal of that being able to take that user fee and fund the kind of capital improvements that would benefit that group, and fund it sooner than we could through the basic tax levy. So I don't really see the idea as much different. Obviously, a significant piece of the revenues from parking devolve to the general fund and to the taxpayer at large. We all have an interest in having a lively downtown, in having a downtown that has enough parking supply to fund the kind of growth and development and vitality that will in the end help get more people paying taxes and reduce the burden on all of us individually, and parking is a big piece of that. So I see it as a great opportunity, and I'm pleased to report that it passed at the last board meeting, but our next discussion in work session and in a resolution to be seen probably at our next meeting is the question of how to fund it.
tax increase. That's how you fund it.
Well, we funded the taxes by user fee increases. So
However you want to slice and dice it, it's coming out of the tax base. It costs $12 million to run the village. You're going to segregate $50,000 or whatever the number is. It's $50,000 less to pay for the workings of the village. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
there's no question that obviously we put all the money in the same pot, it's all the same money. The fact of the
No
matter
question.
is, if we keep increasing user fees and taking it for purposes that don't benefit those users, in the end we don't solve the problems the users have. So that's where we are on that front, and I thank Bernie for his comments, which are now part of the record. Anything else anybody had? I know quite a few of you are here for the specific matter that's buried fairly deep in our resolutions, and that is our resolution number 2009-89, which is an authorization to retain Adler Consulting for traffic engineering services on Church Street. So perhaps we should discuss that up front, so that although we are thrilling, compelling characters, you probably don't want to have to sit through some of the other stuff we have to deal with tonight. So just for the benefit of those of you who are here on this subject or are watching, As you know, a number of residents in the neighborhood of Church Street, Robbins, Green Meadow, Colony, Glen, etc., have sent a petition requesting that we investigate sidewalks on Church Street. There are also a number of residents in that neighborhood who have sent a petition indicating that they're opposed to sidewalks on Church Street. One resident provided a letter to us that cited a series of legal cases that raises the question of whether legal liability might be introduced by our failure to provide sidewalks. And we have examined that with council and have also responded to the suggestions that a number of the residents have requested that we retain a traffic engineer to take a look at Church Street and give us professional opinion. So we sought a couple of different proposals, and the better of the two is from Adler Consulting, which is a Westchester traffic engineering firm, and they have given us a proposal that amounts to a report for $3,000, potential $100 in reimbursable expenses, and possible expense of $500 for installation of an automatic traffic recorder to record traffic data if in fact the data they seek can't be provided with the police department equipment. So just to recap what's included in this proposal, their services include reviewing the available traffic volume and speed data, observations of operating conditions, review of applicable engineering criteria and regulations, and preparation of a letter report in support of the findings indicating what they believe the circumstances are. So they're going to use existing traffic data from automatic traffic recorder counts, possibly establish their own, use available traffic speed data, and if they need more, establish data from counts conducted by Westchester Public Works and install a new counter if need be, review available accident data, obtain an official map looking at roadway widths, visually collect traffic-related information about Church Street, including measuring the site distances on both directions in the general area of Green Meadow, Robbins Road, and Colony Glen, that in part to support a review of whether a safe crosswalk could be established in that area, observe traffic patterns between 7 and 9 a.m., and Joe Potenza sent an email, I think, logically so, requesting that they also do that in the afternoon rush hour, and that certainly makes sense. Patty, if we could ask them to do that. And then they propose to review all of the engineering criteria and give us a letter report that, and I'll read this paragraph since this is the piece we'd get back. Prepare a draft letter report which will make a recommendation concerning whether or not there are safety concerns for pedestrians along Church Street and whether a crosswalk and or a sidewalk can be safely installed. If safety concerns are identified, the letter report will identify measures that may be implemented to mitigate the conditions or identify the roadway sections where mitigation would not be feasible. Finalize the letter report following a review by the client. So, as mentioned, that's a base fee of $3,000, possible $600 in expenses, and that's on for vote tonight. I don't know what my colleagues think. I certainly intend to vote for it. But would be happy to get any comment from any of you if anybody wants to weigh in on it.
My name is Bill White. My wife and I are residents of 6 Green Meadow Road at the corner of Green Meadow and Church Street. Earlier today, or yesterday, I guess, I sent an email to Patty Dwyer and Judy about the possible execution of any traffic study. And the point I wanted to make is that if they are going to do a traffic recorder, I would request that they do it at a point east of Green Meadow Road. The difficulty that we have, particularly in the afternoon, is there's a great deal of traffic that comes westward on Church Street, and then because the traffic backs up, we'll take a cutoff up Green Meadow Road and go down, cut off down Hayes Hill and get to the right of Bedford Road. And so if there's a measurement recorder that's done between Green Meadow and Broadway, they will undercount the amount of traffic that's on the road, possibly the speed, sometimes depending on how much it backs up. But I'd just like that to be part of whatever consideration they have for doing the traffic, that they do it in an intelligent way.
Catch that piece of traffic before it disappears off to Green Meadow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it has to be near the proposed crosswalk. Right?
Well, it's quite a distance between Robbins and Green Meadow.
Yeah, if it were someplace between Robbins Road and Green Meadow, that would anywhere near would do it, for instance. Uphill, downhill, they're also trying to do a timing thing, and you'd want it at a place probably not at the crest where people presumably going the slowest, but these people know their business. They just should do it intelligently.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Patty, did Adler indicate when they could get this started?
They did not, but I don't
Okay.
think, you know,
Well, first off, I mean, clearly we want to get it done
I think
as soon as we can reasonably get it
Well,
done, but we certainly
yeah.
want to get it done before school is out.
Yeah.
I
Well, they know
I
that
assume that
that's-
wouldn't be a problem, since
yeah,
there's plenty of time before
They didn't
that.
indicate they'd have any problem starting immediately, you know, once we sent them a signed agreement.
Okay. So, nobody else has any further comment on that subject? We can go to the resolutions then, and for the benefit of those waiting, would anyone mind if we switch the order of that one to put it first, so as to get that out of the way and not cause all of you to suffer through the rest of our stuff? Steve, you want to do that one?
If I can get the resolution organized with the...
89 it is.
Yeah. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the agreement with Adler Consulting, 235 Main Street in White Plains, New York, for traffic engineering services with respect to Church Street as per the terms set forth in the proposal dated May 4th, 2009.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments?
I think it's a great proposal. I think it'll help clarify some of the concerns and issues that folks on the street have, and will give a base data that will be helpful for us in looking at what intelligently should be done or could be done. And without that, I think we're all just wandering in the dark.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. If any of you wanted a copy of this, you're welcome to get it. We have it at Village Hall. If
Oh,
anyone,
yeah, sure.
You can get it from Patty Dwyer. And then we will let you know what Adler says about when they can get out there and get started on the work.
Mayor, also, if we're going to extend the hours, it may cost a little more, you know, if they're on site in the afternoon, but I'll get that
Well,
later.
see what
Yeah.
you can do. Come on.
Nothing's
all right.
for free.
Okay. Back to the regular sequence then, number 86.
Resolved that the pre-check register dated May 11, 2009, covering check numbers 63209 through 63352, has been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below, including the general fund, miscellaneous revenue fund, the water fund, capital fund, refuge fund, pool fund, and trust and agency fund, totaling $164,549.25.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes held on Monday, April 27, 2009, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Judy, I apologize that we talked so long.
That's okay.
Put you through the work, put you through the
For
ringer.
all purposes, I thought that all should be in.
Great. Any comments or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Brian.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the request from Holy Innocents Church to close their parking lot for a youth service event beginning Saturday evening, May 16th through Sunday morning, May 17th, 2009.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'd just like to read this because it's an interesting project. Letter from Tom Kennedy, who's the youth minister at Holy Innocents. Dear Pleasantville Village Board, our youth group would like to use our church parking lot for a service event starting at 6 p.m. on May 16th and ending at 7 a.m. on May 17th. We're requesting that cars not be allowed to park after Saturday evening's 5:15 Mass. 20 to 25 youth group members will be sleeping overnight in cardboard boxes in the parking lot as a way of bringing attention to their mission trip to New Orleans this summer and the plight of the 12,000 homeless in that city still struggling to recover from the devastation of Katrina. Our mission trip will be from June 28 to July 3, 2009. We'll be traveling to New Orleans with 45 teens and 6 adult chaperones. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sounds like a really interesting project. And another point that it brings up that is worth reminding people is that the parking lot that we think of as a public lot, which is at the corner of Tompkins Avenue and Manville, adjacent to Holy Innocents Church, is actually owned by Holy Innocents, and they lease it to us for a nominal fee in exchange for our maintaining it. And so as a result, it's church property, but because they're asking to use it under some of the time that would normally be used by the public, they sent along this request, which I think we're delighted and happy to support. So, all in favor?
Aye.
We did 89, which was the Adler Consulting. So, Steve, number 90.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the contract with Virtual Town Hall, 12 Clock Tower Plaza, Maynard, Mass. for website redesign services at an amount not to exceed $1,500.
Is there a second?
Second.
Virtual Town Hall is a company in Maynard, Massachusetts, and they are the service provider we've used for the last several years to both provide templates for our website and also host it. They are a company that has focused specifically on municipal websites, and they have, I think, come a long way in the last several years, and we have come to the realization that it's time for us to catch up with them and with the rest of the world. So it's a modest cost of $1,500 to redesign the website, so hopefully not too far down the road you'll see the website looking a bit different and having somewhat different navigation. We're hoping to include in that website a number of services and points of information that you can't get right now, and also to keep it more updated so that it can really be a hub of activity. As an aside, PCTV is working hard and soon to go live on a new website that will be a real hub of activity and information for the village. And am I correct, Shane, that Pleasantville Day is your target day to go live at the PCTV website? What's the URL going to be?
PCTV76.org.
So the website will be pctv76.org, and Shane showed me a rough draft of it the other day. Looks great, and one of the great aspects of it is that you'll be able to get webcasts of both village board meetings as well as school board meetings and various other kinds of content as well, other PCTV shows, shows that our State Senator Cousins produces in Albany, and a variety of other things over a period of time. So those of you who would like to watch a village board meeting again, or would like to see it for the first time, or potentially would prefer to see it through webcasting as opposed to through a cable TV contract, can actually watch these meetings through your computer on the PCTV website, and they will also be indexed by matter, so that if there's only one piece of it that's of interest to you and you'd like to zip right to it and avoid us droning on other subjects, you'll be able to jump to it through a bookmark. So it's a great thing, and
Yeah,
one of the
really
other
cool.
exciting developments that is going to be
great.
happening around Pleasantville Day. So May's a big day in Pleasantville, and also a big month. Thank you, Fred. Also worth pointing out that that new website is in part a joint venture between PCTV, the village government, and also the Pleasantville School Board. So Board of Education stuff will be up there too, and I think it's both a great new service and a precursor of a lot of new services we'll be able to deliver. So if I haven't talked too long and you may have forgotten what we're talking about now, $1,500 to Virtual Town Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thank you for the reminder.
Jonathan, 91.
No, it's me.
Oh, sorry.
Resolved that the Board of
lost track.
Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the agreement with RBA Group, 27 Union Square West, New York, for Memorial Plaza Intermodal Access Project Design Report as per the terms set forth in their proposal dated March 13th, 2009.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, you want to just update everybody on this storm of acronyms associated with this project?
Sure, absolutely. You know, we are trying to find ways to fund the Intermodal project, but it's become apparent that the only way to get some serious consideration of federal funds is to have this project recognized by the state of New York on its Transportation Improvement Program, which comes out it's like a 5-year capital program, and it gets amended from time to time.
Let me just interrupt briefly.
Yeah.
For those who may not know, the Intermodal project is a project that was designed through a federal grant for the Village of Pleasantville that looks at intersections roads, pedestrian improvements,
That's right.
and knitting together auto, pedestrian, bus, and train services. So for us, it means new pedestrian improvements and new intersection improvements in the downtown.
Thank you.
Patty, just quickly, is this just Pleasantville Road, or is this also the bump outs of the sidewalks, the median in the middle of Manville Road? Is it the whole RBA, intermodal?
It's the entire intermodal project from Pleasantville Road to Tompkins along the Manville corridor,
Yeah.
as well as the Bedford Road corridor from Parkview Terrace that we heard about tonight down to Lukoil, basically that little stretch. Now, part of that we're hoping is funded through block grant money and some matching funds by the village. The rest of it we have no source of funding for, and it's several $1,000,000. So we are pursuing federal funds. We think this project is eligible. We've been told it's a good project. However, in order to be considered, we have to be on the State Transportation Improvement Program. The only way to get on that program is to complete something called a design report, which is fairly technical, and fortunate for us, Steve Lopez is in the business, and he took a look at it. And he came to the same conclusion that the state will not move this forward unless it gets a project identification number. And in order to get that, you have to do this design report. So we are 75% complete with our design report. I stopped the project when we found out that we weren't on the amended Transportation Enhancement Program, but it seems now we're back in the running for some money, and we need to finish up this part of the project.
Let me just get this straight. The state sponsors our program to the federal government? Is that?
All federal highway money filters to the states to distribute it. It gets very politicized and very competitive. But the federal government doesn't deal directly with the locals. It gives the money to the states. And the state sets up committees called transportation councils. And they decide where the money goes. And we need to get our project in front of the Metropolitan Transportation Council, who puts together this 5-year TIP plan, for the lower Hudson Valley.
So the $2 million project, that also includes redesigning and doing the Memorial Plaza, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's more than $2 million. The entire scope is, I think, $3.5 million. But it includes squaring up the northern end of the plaza, putting the medians on Manville Road.
And this
improving some of the
$30,000 that we're going to
intersections.
spend here is to flush out all those plans, or just a portion of those plans?
It's to do the entire intermodal project, some Pleasantville Road work as well as Manville Road work,
And Memorial Plaza?
and the plaza. Which is the that's actually the key intersection to the whole project.
So we're spending $30,000. The proposal is to spend, just so I'm clear, $29,144 to be exact. In order to get our project to the point where it qualifies for
Federal funds.
federal money that we may or may not get.
That's right.
And, okay.
There's no other way to get into that pool.
And what happens if they, I don't know enough about how this works. If they say, we're going to give you 200 grand, I mean, will they give us the full amount of money?
Well, that's
Will we get tipped, or will we get tipped over?
We have no idea. Typically, they fund 80% is usually the federal threshold. 20% then has to come from a state-local match. Sometimes the state has money from other sources, but the federal funding is typically 80%. And it's typically required that you pay first and get reimbursed. So it's not the easiest source of money to come by. But you know what? It's all that's out there right now, and we have a project that, should get consideration. And if it doesn't at this point, it will someday, because the state has a number of transportation enhancement programs, and they encouraged us to, to get, basically the template done and the boilerplates all finished, so we can keep pursuing funding.
So the reason we weren't shovel-ready, this solves that?
Yes.
This makes it shovel-ready?
This does, because we could not get, there was some correspondence from the state engineer at Region 8, Rich Peters, and he said that he would submit our project to the MPO, which is the Transportation Council, for consideration, but they can only put it on as an illustrative project because we don't have our design report done.
Did
They can't
do
give it
that?
a number. It is, it's on the illustrative tip. It's not the active
But nobody
tip.
commented on it.
They won't at this
Okay.
point. They won't even consider funding it because it doesn't have a state project identification number.
And how much have we paid?
It's just, and believe me, you know how long it took me to figure out why we weren't getting attention, and they made us go, this project was brought to probably 5 different points of contact for stimulus funding, and everybody just kind of, patted us on the head and moved us along, and then finally we found out why we weren't getting anywhere, and it was because
You went to Poughkeepsie and the whole
we
nine
were all
yards.
over the place.
Well, I mean, so if we get hit on our tip, we do this 30 grand, we get hit, the government says, fine, come up with $400,000 or $500,000,
Then we'll have a fund. We'll have saved that.
and we'll have $50,000 in the fund that we've raised people's
Which
taxes
is
for to pay for it.
More than enough to fund the bond.
The problem
More
is
than
this,
enough to fund the bond, yes.
I mean, I get,
We have more
the
than enough right now to fund the
skepticism.
bond.
It is, you have every reason to be skeptical. We don't have to accept stimulus money or federal highway funds for
Well,
this.
exactly.
We could do this any time on our own.
Well-
The problem is it's a state highway. We'll never get it approved without the state looking at a design report.
Well,
So
I guess my
we're
question...
kind of stuck anyway.
So either way, we need this report.
Yeah, we're stuck.
But we don't, we
And
haven't
we're
even done...
75% through.
But we've done no community, we've done no, so we submit this plan, we get hit. The government says, here's $1.6 million, come up with 400, we like the plan. We've not had any, we haven't presented the plan to the community. So then what
We
happens?
have
We
presented
have
the plan to the community.
several
I mean,
times
we
and
certainly
have-
can do it again, but we...
We've
So,
had a couple-
wait. This community is not aware of the
We've had a
massive
couple public
restructuring
meetings.
I don't
of
know,
Memorial
John.
Plaza, the moving of the gazebo.
Well,
There
what
was
do
some
we need to do?
conceptual
Talk to the
stuff.
neighborhoods and tell them? I mean, it's been on PCTV.
Somebody
but
call
I'm
in and
not
let me know if everybody's aware of this,
We've
because
had 2 or 3 public
This
meetings.
project...
Well, we could do it. It's easy
And
enough
we
to
can do it
do.
again, fine,
And
but it's not
the
like...
design for
Okay.
moving the gazebo has not been done yet.
No, the gazebo hasn't even been...
and my
moved
impression
yet.
is that
It
what
was
we presented to the community
illustrated.
is a purely conceptual
conceptual.
idea. We did not present them with, we are going to do this if we have the money. And I'm less concerned with Pleasantville Road and maybe even some of the stuff on Manville Road, which I'm really more concerned with the total disruption of
There
the,
you go. It's Tanya.
of
Hello,
the,
Village Hall.
of the, what's going to happen at Memorial Plaza.
Yes, it is.
People know what's going on there. Now, it's nice, I don't disagree
I
with
know,
that, but I'm
I-
not sure
yeah.
we've had
Hey,
an
Karen, how are
active village discussion on this.
Well, Jonathan, the other thing we don't know either is if we do get
Well,
it,
do you wanna
what
be-
type
wanna
of
be on the-
stipulations are they going to put on us?
Heard on-
If it-
on live, or
We
you-
may have to,
We have
you
no
accept
idea.
stimulus, you don't
Yeah.
know what type of regulations will be placed on us for,
Right, I
if
agree.
we accept
Well,
it.
we don't
So
have any
that's,
money for
but
it
it's
at
not
the
like we
moment,
can't do it without,
No,
we're
they're
not going to
not-
know that until it happens.
Right, well,
And then, I'm sure we can, if by chance,
Well,
if
the $30,000...
the community says no way,
Well, then you just don't move forward.
expense is to
Right.
have the engineers and
well,
landscape
yeah,
architects
I mean, I guess
draw
that's my
this.
point. My point is, we're going to spend $30,000
All right, so I'll explain that.
to buy a lottery ticket, to buy a TIPS lottery ticket, essentially.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah,
But
to buy into the
we've said
game.
a number of
To
times.
buy into the game, right.
You gotta be in the game.
That's all part of their plan.
And,
I'll report
You're
that.
stimulating by spending
No, I appreciate it.
Maybe we
$30,000.
could not be in the game.
Thank you.
You're doing exactly what they want us to do.
my only point is, I don't mind being in the game, but, we've got these sort of conceptual plans that are out there. We have not put them out to the community as, this is what we're doing. It's always been a sort of hypothetical what if in the future, especially in regards to Memorial Plaza. And so, what I don't want to do is spend $30,000 and then find out this is something that we're not going to fund the 400 for, that, that we haven't done our due diligence with the community on it, and indeed there is more at stake here than just, buying into the game. And that's all I'm pointing out. I mean, if we're not prepared to fund the 400 and we haven't done our groundwork with the community, and maybe we have, then we should go ahead and spend the $30,000. But if we haven't done that stuff and we're not convinced we're going to spend the matching up to 400 to do it, the $50,000 in the fund aside, does this deserve further conversations along those lines, or do we just go ahead and buy the lottery ticket?
Well, I'd just like to interject that this this expenditure is not strictly for stimulus funds. This expenditure is what has to be spent to get this project to go anywhere with any funds. The stimulus fund just happens to be the game in town right now. But unless this is put on the state tip, it's not going to get stimulus, it's not going to get any other funding package that might occur down the road. If it were on the state tip and did not get stimulus funds, I would guess it would be 10 to 15 years before it was built, before it was funded, 'cause that's how far out the state funding goes. And given the state budget, wouldn't be surprised if it was even longer than that. Projects get on the tip, they just hang out there for decades.
That's right.
Maybe I'm exaggerating, I shouldn't say that decades, but
Decade.
being on the tip
That's right.
only makes a project a viable project for funding sometime, somewhere, somehow, when some pool of money is available. The reason everybody's rushing right now, obviously, to tap into the stimulus funding is because projects that are well along the way can get funded rapidly, and people who are in the game and know how long it takes to get public improvement funds like roadwork funds funded, particularly from the state DOT, know that it's just years and years and years. So you bring up a good point about community outreach, but maybe the thing to do is to proceed along two tracks simultaneously and move this forward. If there's some components of it, like Memorial Plaza, that aren't ready for prime time, they might take a different track than other components of it. And we're still on a tip with a project that's then becomes multi-componented, something like that. And pieces of it might go ahead with stimulus and with available funds, and others might need to wait longer for input from other sources of thinking. I'm sort of open to that idea. I think there are components of this thing that are on the table, though, that would seem to have a good rationale and good basis. They may not all be the Memorial Plaza ones, but certainly the other ones shouldn't be. Pieces of it shouldn't be held up because the whole package may not be ready for prime time.
Well,
Is my
I mean, that's my only question is what degree of flexibility do we have?
I think that
once we're tipped, if we end up in the lucky position of actually having our lottery ticket.
But isn't it the case that no matter what we do, it has to say that we miraculously get this money? Doesn't it have to then go under secret review, state quality review?
That's part of what this is, isn't it?
Right, exactly. But that's a public hearing, and those are. I mean, there are further meetings. Just because it's not going to be that we get the money and then we build it. There are other review processes that people can have a say at, and then we can actually. I assume that some of that can be tweaked and.
We haven't even seen a final design of Memorial Plaza.
No, you're not there yet.
No,
the
we're
design's
not
about
even there yet. So as far as
Yeah.
the public, we don't have that yet.
But since we
had
don't have any
input.
hope of funding it, we might as well. I agree with Steve. I think you're right. I have the same concern. It seems like a lot of money we're giving to RBA. On the other hand, you got to be in it to win it.
Well, and it's an amazing, as Steve pointed out in his analysis of it, it's a very technical undertaking to put this together. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, none of this money would actually pay for a big change within Memorial Plaza. It is proposing to change the end of Memorial Plaza at Manville Road, right? We're not, this project would not, for example, pick up the gazebo and move it or reconfigure the parking
No, it's
within.
all just geometric improvements to the roadbed itself,
The
or the
roadbed,
right-of-way.
correct.
Some sidewalks and the...
Where we had the issues is how we're going to exit traffic out of the plaza after that.
Right, that's still up for discussion.
That's still up for discussion, and there was an area that took away a number of spaces, which we all weren't for, because we wanted to keep the amount of spaces in there, because we had no place to relocate them. So that was all still up in the air.
Well, how about...
Except that the redesign eliminated the space for the gazebo.
No,
So
it
either
did
you're
not.
not going to get rid of it, or you're going to move it down.
No, it did not. No,
It
that was
did.
No, one of the options was to make a cutout where the gazebo is, so traffic could exit out there as well, and moving the gazebo. But
There's more time for this, right? I mean,
Right.
It's clear we don't understand what this
we were
plan
not
is.
sure.
So as long as there's time to readjust this plan,
Well, how about
it's really a question of do we want to spend $30,000 to do that?
Right.
Well, it's not just to readjust it. The 30,000 gets us to the point where it can get on this list that would make it viable for funding. So task number one is meetings and coordination. And my suggestion to this, I mean, it's all good comments, would be that we use, RBA has anticipated 2 meetings with the village as part of this scope of work, and let's make sure that one of them, perhaps the first one, includes a public presentation, overview of the entire project, and we can notice that as a meeting when anyone who's interested in coming can see it, but by then Shane and PCTV will be up and running with webcasting, and then we can pick up that piece of the meeting and have it as a webcast, so that anybody who would like to pick up that piece can see it too.
Hasn't this been on the website since we started the Central Business, the Master Plan Update Committee? This was one of the designs that's been
It's been on, I don't know if it's still on, but we had it on for
So,
It's been on
anyway,
there.
That said, I think Jonathan is right that it's been around for a while, and maybe bringing focus to it to make sure that all of us and all of the community are aware of it, and can weigh in on the detailing of it as part of this project makes sense.
You know, on task 4 on page 3, it says seeker designation as part of the report, but that doesn't mean they're going to obtain that seeker designation.
Well, it's
Or
actually-
we're going to have those hearings, right? I mean,
Well,
that's
I think
we
we're the
don't-
lead
that's
agency.
part of the
We'll
issue.
neg
It's-
deaf it or
No,
whatever.
but
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
right.
it's a neg deck, it's a type 2.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't require a global,
The DOT is going to have a streamlined seeker
Yeah.
review for the whole fund expenditure. And what's probably going to happen is going to be this procedure, as Patty said, it's going to be
Yeah.
it's not going to be the seeker that when you're...
it's a very minor project, actually, in the
Right,
scheme of
it's not gonna be
environmental
a
you
3-inch
know,
thick book,
impact. Yeah.
But it still mandates, and will they obtain that, even though it's an egg deck?
Well,
Well, that's gonna be part of the
village,
report.
it's this board's
The seeker
responsibility.
compliance.
Yeah.
And
I
we're
mean,
the
you've
lead
already
aid
declared
materials,
yourselves
right.
lead agency. You've
Right.
got no comments back, only from the county, who said they have no objection to you being lead agency. You'll have to do a designation type 2 and a declaration of impact, and you may want to do a long form with that to show the traffic impact. That's probably safe to say that, you know, we find it to have, you know,
Well, if that
some
has an
impacts on
impact, I
traffic
mean, that's
flow.
what we're trying to do.
Right, and this is how we plan
Trying
on
to impact
mitigating it.
traffic.
But it's all,
If it doesn't, we failed.
yeah, it should be a betterment, you're right. If it's not a betterment, what are we doing?
All right, so let's
Okay.
just be sure we use that first meeting as that occasion to kick off a much broader public presentation of all of this, and at that point get it up on the site again in its
Okay.
latest form, and also the webcast that PCTV can do. So, all right. All in favor of approving this?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 2009-92.
So. You sure this is mine?
It's long enough.
I just had the last one.
Yeah.
Why, do you pick only the short ones, Jonathan? Is that-
I don't pick any of them, I just get it sort of
You spoke so much on Mindy's, it felt like yours.
Yeah. Do you want me to do this one for you?
But I will say, you brought up some very good points.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Trustee Lopez.
I appreciate it.
I feel good about what we're seeing.
Mindy, I'll swap. No, okay. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville, in accordance with the real property tax law, Section 1420, is authorized to levy the property tax for the ensuing fiscal year, and be it further resolved that the taxes shall be levied pursuant to the execution of the tax warrant by the mayor as heretofore attached, by which the village treasurer shall be commanded to receive and collect all taxes extended upon the 2009-10 tax roll, and be it further resolved that pursuant to the real property tax section 1434, the village treasurer shall collect taxes in 2 equal installments at the tax receiver's office on the 3rd floor of Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, with the first installment due June 1st, 2009, to and including July 1st, 2009, and the second installment due December 1st, 2009, to and including December 31st, 2009. And be it further resolved that the payment of the second installment can be accepted in advance of December 1st, 2009.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Even though I see no
Basically,
mention of a hidden tax
Yeah.
in this. No.
This is,
Well, then we should discuss that again.
That's
This is-
because
this
it's
is
hidden,
just
Brian.
an
It's
annual-
hidden.
Yeah, right.
It's lurking between the lines, Brian.
we're required by, state finance law to adopt a resolution authorizing the treasurer now to levy taxes according with your budget that you've adopted. That's basically what this is.
This is new, right?
No, every year we do it.
You do this every year?
Yeah, it's kind of redundant, it's boring,
Well.
but every year the numbers change a little bit. But every year we have to levy taxes now. And
All right.
so we are.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Brian?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approve the following budget amendments. This is budget housekeeping, so there are 5 amounts totaling, or 5, what do we say, budget items totaling $31,110, and they're being shifted, the same amount is shifted into other categories.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is just the bookkeeping associated with
Current
the
fiscal year,
current
trying
fiscal
to
year,
deal with
so
overexpended
that
accounts.
we're moving money from accounts that are overfunded to accounts that are underfunded to
Right.
balance them out. It doesn't reflect new overall spending relative to the budget,
No.
just lining them up in accounts that can fund them. So
That's right.
And since some of this is going to police overtime, I just had a question. Is police overtime kind of on budget?
No,
No.
it's over budget.
It's over.
Yeah, but in certain classes of overtime. In patrol, it's over. In other divisions, juvenile detective, it's under. But overall, it's over
Okay.
as a department budget.
By a significant amount?
I don't have the top of my head, but
Just wondering.
not on a historical average. But for the year, yes, we were a little underfunded this year. so
Brian, one,
it's over.
you may have gotten this when we were doing the budget work sessions before the
Right, I was-
board switched over. Jonathan and I did the police budget, and one of the things we did was increase the police overtime line because annually there's an effort to obviously reduce it to the minimum possible, and we've been trying to keep the police on a tight rope for that. But based on past experience and based on the chief's description of certain amount of overtime that's just built into the system for special events and for unexpected coverage of illnesses, it appeared that we probably were not entirely realistic in the overtime line we were showing the last couple of years. So
I just recall in the past how when that, I mean, there's a fine line. When we get to a certain point in overtime, it then makes sense to hire somebody else. And I assume we're not at that point yet.
we are not.
I don't
I mean,
know.
or somebody's
I haven't
monitoring
looked
that.
at that.
I'm not.
I mean,
I'm not
stay
understand.
tuned. I mean,
Right.
we've made the decision to leave two positions vacant. And it's the opinion of the 2 lieutenants who do the scheduling that, barring anything unforeseen, like, for example, an officer being out an unexpected amount of time or something like that, they believe that they can manage with those 2 slots empty without incurring a lot more overtime. So that was the discussion we had at the time of the police budget, but I think we've resolved to take a look at that on a quarterly basis and see how it's going.
Okay, no, I support that. As long as we're looking at it, as long as we have that on the radar screen, I'm happy about that.
All right, so 2009-93, all in favor?
Aye.
Steve?
I just have a technical question. Do I have a conflict of interest if I'm a regular customer of Captain Lawrence?
Yeah.
We have enough votes here if
I think the
if we're
whole board
conflicted?
except for me does.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees...
I don't care.
Paragon of
I
virtue.
know. If it was a winery, I would have a conflict.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the request from Captain Lawrence Brewing Company, 99 Castleton Avenue, to serve alcoholic beverages in the parking lot of the brewery on May 16, 2009, from 12 to 7 p.m. in conjunction with their 3-year anniversary party. Said approval is subject to receipt of proper insurance certificates.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is actually a lot of fun.
It's, as many of you know, and those who aren't, it's worth knowing Captain Lawrence Brewing Company is, I think, Westchester's only microbrewery, located right here in Pleasantville, New York, at 99 Castleton Street, adjacent to the MLA property. And they've done this in the past, very well run. activity, and included in their application is a temporary New York State Liquor Authority permit that has been provided for the purpose of this event, so their paperwork is in order.
I'd just like to say, I remember when Scott Vaccaro came here. Remember that? Were you here, Pat?
Yeah, I was.
And he came to us.
Said he was going to do this
He
brewery.
studied at UC Davis,
Right,
which was
right.
the greatest sort of brew school and enophile school in the country. And then he ran a brewery in Northern California. Then he came here, and I just have to say that we hear a lot of things come in front of this board over the years, the 9 years I was here. And every time, you know, at least I'm an optimistic person, you think, well, that's going to be great for the village. And so often, whatever it is, this doesn't live up to the expectations that we all had on day one, with the exception of Captain Lawrence Brewing Company, which is just
It is phenomenal.
better than
It
we
is.
thought in every way, don't you think?
I do.
You go down there on a Saturday afternoon, if you don't know about that, Saturday afternoon from noon till 6, you can taste beer and buy growlers, bottles of beer,
Otherwise known as little brown jugs.
little brown jugs, and people just come from all over Westchester to fill up their
Well,
jugs.
you know what's fun now is when you go to a restaurant, you know, that's not in this immediate area, and they're serving Captain Lawrence
Yeah.
on tap.
Right.
So that's
It
a lot of fun to do.
it is a spectacular business in this village.
Doing a great job.
and Scott-
Congratulations.
They're very
to
good
Scott
neighbors
Vaccaro.
and very
Scott
good people.
proudly puts Pleasantville on his label, so
Yes.
that's been a good thing. And
Yep.
I might also report that he has been a loyal and generous supporter of the Pleasantville Music Festival every year, and so has benefited us in a number of ways. So.
We should send Westchester Magazine a growler or two.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we have one addition that was not on the original agenda, number 95. Mindy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby appoints Jeff Lupica to the Architectural Review Board for a three-year term to expire April 2012.
Is there a second?
That's great. I'm glad to see that.
Second.
This is a bit of housekeeping to resolve a scheduling problem associated with Jeff's continued involvement. Thank you for doing it, Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
So that was our last resolution of the evening. One thing I was reminded of that I meant to mention earlier, and that is that, as we have mentioned at some points in the past, we're well along with a project to reconfigure the intersection in the area of Lukoil, 7-Eleven, Carvel there. And that is a revision that includes adding both much better sidewalks and pedestrian improvements in that area. At the moment, it's a pretty grim pedestrian environment, but also introducing a traffic light at that corner. That was a project funded in significant part by the County of Westchester through their Community Development Block Grant Program. Two things to be said about it. One was, some of you may have noticed a letter in the Examiner a couple of weeks ago from Mark Markarian, who is a village resident, and he expressed concern that the idea of adding a light at that intersection would be problematic and would actually harm the flow of traffic through the village. And I met with him this week and showed him the details, and have since sent along the traffic analysis that came with it from the county. And the traffic engineers are convinced, and I think present a convincing case, that if the lights all along Bedford Road at Lukoil, at Jean-Jacques, at Village Hall can be properly synchronized, that the throughput, so to speak, of cars through that area at rush hour will actually be noticeably improved, and will also create for the first time button-actuated pedestrian crosswalks, so that kids and adults who want to walk in that area can push a button and get a walk sign. I hasten to point out that there will be no walk sign automatically, so you won't be sitting there waiting for a walk sign when there's nobody to walk. It will only happen when someone presses the button. So at any rate, I sent that off to him, and we'll be interested in any comments he may have, or anybody else, but we're well along with that project. Actually, we're about to award the bid when we got news from Westchester County that the whole Community Development Block Grant Program had been suspended because of a lawsuit and some reinterpretation from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We got word today that there is optimism to believe that that may be soon reversed and that we may be back in business. But as of the moment, we've not been able to award that bid. or begin that work pending the resolution of that problem. So that's where we stand with that, but that would be a fairly significant change, both big pedestrian improvements and a new traffic light on Bedford Road where it curves in front of Lukewan.
Speaking of Bedford Road, could it be that what's going on Bedford Road currently is just one sadistic traffic calming
Yeah,
exercise?
like
That
Con
instead of
Edison.
traffic humps, we
No,
have
it was really bad.
traffic ditches
It's
going all the way
really bad.
It was
down.
They're all over.
And how long is it going to be?
I don't know, they're on
Commerce
Commerce Street too. I've hit one over there when I was heading out to Burgers.
There's a bad accident up there.
I don't know what they're doing,
on
but that's
Commerce,
Con Edison,
because-
they're,
Having lived through months and months of plates
Yeah.
outside
That's
my
right.
house,
Yeah.
where you hear the cluck-clunk, cluck-clunk,
Right.
cluck-clunk,
Yeah.
cluck-clunk, and it's all day long.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed at how much sound that pavement removal makes with cars going over it,
Oh, yeah.
especially the ones that bottom out. But now you hear the same thing, cluck-clunk, cluck-clunk, coming up the other side.
I mean, are we looking
It's
at
noisy.
a month?
It's really
noisy
noisy when you hit that lip.
but I'll.
Yeah,
the
the lips are
fast
good,
I mean,
but
they
inch
didn't
and a
even
half,
tell
2
us, Brian.
inches.
They just come in,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
our road, so they
Well,
come in
the
and
worst
do
thing
what
is
they want.
they take it out, they take vast swaths of
It's a mess.
asphalt out.
And they don't sign
And they
it.
just leave it.
They
It's
don't
just
sign it
left.
to say, slow down, we.
They don't even tell us they're coming.
Last week,
You know,
'cause
it's
I-
a county road.
I'd like to get our power from another
Why can't they?
another
need
utility.
to
I
sign
assumed
it.
that they were grinding it out with intent to follow right away to repave it.
It's all different subs, though. See, they don't do their own work anymore, so I don't know if their sub is around the county and he's coming here. But the blacktop plants are open. We picked it up this week. I mean, you know,
I think they're
we've been
busy
filling
cutting
potholes.
shade trees
Yeah.
throughout the county.
Can Steve call them and find out when they expect
Yeah,
to
I'm
get these
sure he
things filled?
will.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, it's
Well,
just
we
crazy.
did get an answer last week when I spoke with you
Well,
about,
indirectly.
they said they were supposed to be doing it.
They should
Like
be-
today.
They should have been here today and
Yeah.
probably tomorrow.
No sign of it.
No.
But they did put signs up for us because Patty had asked them to, you know, at least give people
Well,
some
that there's a
warning that
rough
there's
road
no
or something.
pavement ahead.
Right, yeah, because when they slam on the brakes, they have to worry
And then that's how
about-
the accident occurred over in Thornwood, and so now there is one sign, or 2 signs on Bedford Road, that's it. And that's after you go through 2 missing pavement areas to get to one, and then they say slow. You know, you should have told them to slow down back there.
Well, it's a nightmare.
It is not good.
All right, so we'll put the squeeze on them, so.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have anything else? New business?
They're effective traffic calming.
They
are.
really are, that's what Brian's
We should
point
do
is well
that
taken.
on,
Nana
we
Hagen
should do
and
that on
Church Street.
I know,
Ashland.
there's cut a few ditches in the road on Ashland.
And Beverage.
If we wait long enough, Con Ed will come do it for us. So. All right, I just want to remind everybody, as mentioned, Pleasantville Day is this weekend, and we have another regular meeting next week, Monday, May 18 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7 p.m. That's different from our normal schedule, but because Memorial Day falls on the 4th Monday, we have a second meeting of the month on the 3rd Monday next week. So we look forward to all of you coming and visiting or watching or calling in. Thanks for your attention. We wish you a good week. Hope to see you at Pleasantville Day. Thanks for watching. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.